I love the look. It's very incredibly elegantly New York, and then very, very dressed. I gotta go in a minute. I can't stay super long, but I'm actually very intrigued before I go. Who are you? What's your story?
I'm from.
You're from.
Yeah.
Entonces, mejor en español o en inglés para ti.
Solo español.
Hey, what's up? Today I want to share with you a day game technique that is an absolute cheat code. So much so that I use it in almost every interaction, and I would say in the difficult interactions, it increases my success by as much as maybe 50%. So let's find out what it is and see if we can get your day game better right now. Imagine this. You start a conversation with an attractive female stranger in the daytime, and from the first moment, you don't have her full attention. Well, if you were to say something like, I gotta go in a minute, but anyway, all of a sudden, you might see the entire interaction change. You might see her say, oh, okay, cool. This isn't a big commitment. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, he's not too invested. Oh, he doesn't want that much from me. And all of a sudden, she'll go from half invested to, okay, I'll give him 20 seconds of my time. I love the look. It's very incredibly elegantly New York, and then very, very dressed. I gotta go in a minute. I can't stay super long, but I'm actually very intrigued before I go. Who are you? What's your story?
I'm from.
You're from.
Yeah.
Entonces, mejor en español o en inglés para ti.
Solo español.
What are you doing here in my city?
I do modeling.
Okay, fair enough. So you actually here for a period of time, or you're just here for a few days and then you're going again?
I live here.
Okay. I'm actually leaving town, but I'm coming back soon. Perhaps in June when I get back or something.
Yeah, sure. It was really nice to meet you.
Honestly, that alone will dramatically increase your results in day game. And that's all you really need in those cases where you're not getting the time of day, or maybe she looked you up and down and didn't find you immediately attractive, but she'll just be socially polite to you and give you a foot in the door. And this will happen a ton on cold approach opens in the daytime, especially when the girl is walking. But that's not the only occasion where the false time constraint is useful. There are at least 3 other specific occasions where it can dramatically increase your results in day game as well. Let's look at those right now. Besides girls who are walking, girls sitting down are one of the most common scenarios that you're gonna see in day game as well. And in that scenario also, the false time constraint is extremely valuable. You see, when a girl's sitting down, if you can sit with her, it's incredible for the interaction. As long as she's sitting and you're standing, it feels like a cold approach, it feels like a pickup. As soon as you sit down with her, it feels like you're together. In fact, to an extent, it already feels a little bit like a date. So being able to sit down is tremendously valuable. However, sitting down in and of itself is a little bit invasive, right? You sit down and the girl might be a little nervous about it. She might wonder how long you're gonna stay. Enter the false time constraint. So let's say that a girl asks you a question. Maybe she asks you what you do for a living. If she says, what do you do for a living? And you say lawyer, that's a boring ass answer. It doesn't progress the interaction. It doesn't really do much for you. Let's say the girl asks you what you do for a living and you do something a little more like this. Yeah, that's interesting. I have to go in a second, but it's kind of funny. So when I was in college, I was really trying to figure out my future and So what you do is you take the fact that she asked you a question as though she invited you to continue talking, which she literally did. And so you say, okay, I'll take your invite, but I can't stay super long. It's incredibly smooth, incredibly non-invasive, and as soon as you do that and sit down, you're almost on an instant date with a girl. And this will tremendously increase the amount of your interactions that turn into phone numbers or even actual instant dates and or pulls. Tremendously valuable, tremendously important, and tremendously easy. Once the interaction's actually going well, now you need to turn it into something tangible. That means you need to close. That can be a phone number or it can be an instant date. And phone numbers are great. Phone numbers are very useful in day game, and oftentimes you have to settle for phone numbers, but instant dates are better. Instant dates lead to more solid numbers. They also can lead to taking the girl home that very day, which will lead to some of the best adventures of your entire life. So we like instant dates. The problem with an instant date is it is a bit of a time commitment and it may make the girl a little nervous. So once again, enter the false time constraint. So instead of saying very eagerly, hey, let's go grab an ice cream, which has a lot of things wrong with it, eagerness and neediness being a big one, but the other one is that this is an undefined time frame. She doesn't know how long you're gonna keep her there. She may be a little nervous about it. On the other hand, if you were like, yeah, I might have plans later, but I could do a quick ice cream, I guess. Yeah, I could do that, let's go. And then you'd actually get up and you could actually stand up and lead, and oftentimes she'll stand up and go with you. So that's a much more effective way in an interaction that's already going well to get on an instant date than by just eagerly asking and asking without that false time constraint. Again, when you are going on an instant date, it's more important to sell that it's not a big deal than it is to sell that the place you're going is amazing, and that's where the false time constraint comes in. Aside from the logistical situations where you use a false time constraint, i.e. the girl who only half stops or you don't have her full attention, or sitting down or going for an instant date, the false time constraint is actually so powerful it can sometimes turn around an outright rejection. All right, so sometimes the girl's like, oh no, I'm not interested, but yeah, that's cool, I gotta go in a minute anyway, but just before I go, and then you keep talking, and again, the goal is not that that's going to win the whole situation, but it's going to give you 15 or 20 seconds worth of time, and if you are engaging and cool in that 15 and 20 seconds, you actually can turn those situations around, and it's shocking how often I've been able to actually turn around an instant no and turn it into a yes with just this simple technique. So I want to throw that one in as well. It is actually powerful enough to be used in the face of an outright rejection in many cases. Okay, so I hope I've shown you and convinced you by now that the false time constraint is an amazing technique. However, like any technique, it's not universal and it can definitely be done wrong if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to show you 3 major pitfalls, 3 major things guys do wrong when using the false time constraint. First thing guys do wrong is they say it in an apologetic or low value way. So the idea of the false time constraint is that you only have a certain amount of time to talk to the girl, not that you, as this low-value, burdensome guy, are only going to take up a little bit of her time. And you'll see guys say this all the time, say, hey, excuse me, I won't take up too much of your time, but no, that's awful. That's a terrible frame, right? You are achieving the not making it seem like a big deal or not making it seem like you'll take very long, but in the process, you're creating a really bad frame. You're making the girl really nervous and awkward over how low value you're being, and you're just creating a situation that's not going to lead to the girl getting attracted to you, okay? So it's the idea that you only have a certain amount of time available, not that you, as this burdensome guy, will only take up a little bit of her time. Very important distinction. Second major thing that guys do very wrong with this is they use it every single interaction no matter what. You will be using it in a lot of interactions because, a lot of times the girl won't open, or a lot of times you will need to sit down, or a lot of times you will be asking for an instant date, or sometimes you may get an outright rejection, you need to turn around. Those all may happen. However, when you open and the girl is really into you from the first moment, it goes really well. You say, hey, excuse me, you're very cute, I want to touch you. She's like, oh, you're really cute too, thank you, right? You don't need to say, oh yeah, I can't stay very long. You don't need to say that. There's 2 problems with that. One problem is by doing it then, you reduce its effectiveness later on. So if you use it right then, now later on when you want to use it to sit down or use it to take her on an instant date, you've already used it and you've already kind of burnt it to a certain degree. You can use it multiple times, but it's just better if you don't. Okay, so the first thing is you will have burnt it. The second thing is you will have created a doubt in her mind over how long you can stay, which you may have to unwind later. It's usually not a big deal, but why do it if you don't need to? It's just an extra hurdle that is not necessary. And the final thing, which is very related to this, is that guys will give the false time constraint in a way that's way too specific. So you may have noticed when I demonstrated, I said, oh yeah, I can't stay super long. I didn't say, I have somewhere to be urgently in 5 minutes. I have somewhere to be urgently in 5 minutes is going to make the girl actually concerned about you. It's going to make her actually wonder if you need to leave, and she's probably going to bring it up and be like, hey, didn't you say you needed to go somewhere? Which will make it awkward later. So the false time constraint is a vague general idea and feeling. It is not a specific time commitment event that's in the, super near future. And it's also not something critical. It's not like you have to go to the hospital for something or something urgent like that, okay? The point is to create a little bit of feeling of levity and a little less imposition in the interaction, not to create a firm barrier to an instant date or to taking a girl home if the set goes well. So you don't want the cure to do more harm than good, so to speak. You don't want to sabotage your future interaction with this technique, all right? So you want to avoid those 3 things. Don't do it apologetically. Don't do it every time indiscriminately, only do it when necessary, and please, please don't make it so specific that it's going to be a huge burden later in the interaction. So that's the false time constraint, and as I said at the start, it is basically a cheat code. I use it in the majority of my interactions, it dramatically increases my results, and it can dramatically increase yours as well. So go start using it now.